Hey, welcome to Spellstorm Miniatures, a show about miniature war games, including War Machine and Hordes by Privateer Press. And the goal here is to inspire you all to play more. My name is Jeremiah, and with me I have two very special guests for our episodes. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves, say your name, say hello to the audience.
I'm Perry. I'm a local player here in Portland, Oregon area.
Nice. And who do we have over here?
I'm Scott, Brother Scott on most of the social media that I don't follow anymore.
Nice. Yeah, also true.
And a transplant from the Boise Meta to Portland about 6 years ago.
Nice. Well, I'm really excited to have you guys on. A couple of episodes, Dan and Chad and I had a conversation about sort of managing your hobby desk. And you two are prolific hobbyists in our area, and you provide a lot of inspiration to local gamers. And so I wanted to have you guys on to further that conversation because there's a little bit extra experience and a little extra wisdom that you guys bring, to that topic. But before we get started, I want to ask you a couple questions just about War Machine and Hordes in general. How long have you been playing? What was your first army? That sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been gaming since 1982, so that makes me feel really old. But I got into BattleTech in the 80s, and then into Rogue Trader, and then into the Games Workshop. 40K. Never quite got into the fantasy battle with everything in a line, but played a lot of 40K for a very long time. And then I had a buddy at the end of Mark 1 who showed me War Machine, and I was blown away by the rules and just the warcasters getting a feat, and I love the steampunk aesthetic.
Nice.
And we actually ended up trying out some of the role playing rules because I play a lot of role playing games, and so I was hooked into the world and the lore. And I originally had Khador and played that for quite a while, and then I played a lot of Scorn and Mark II and lost a lot of games and learned a lot of hard lessons.
I've heard about Scorn and Mark II. I've heard the stories.
Yeah, it was a different beast back then. I had about 6 or 7 good friends, and we all sort of played at each other's houses. We didn't go to game stores too much or anything like that, and so a couple of those friends moved on. One passed away, sadly, and we just sort of, our War Machine group kind of fell apart, and I decided to break out of my shell a little bit, and I started going to Rune and Board on Wednesdays about 2.5 years ago now.
Nice.
And became great friends with Scott. We have a shared military background, and not too far apart in age, generation-wise, and so we both love hobbying. And I've gotten into Mercenaries full bore. I've been playing them. I've been playing them in Masters Leagues and whenever I can, and it's been great. And it's a great challenge because the Mercenaries have so many different themes, and as a hobbyist, you can really explore the color and the narrative through each of those themes and try to find a way to unify the way they all look, right? Because they're just a bunch of hodgepodge characters with these interesting personalities. So it's been an absolute delight exploring Mercenaries. It's the most fun I've had in the last, 11 years now of playing War Machine.
That's great.
Time flies.
I want to just respond to something that you shared. You talked about how you had like a gaming group that regularly got together. I feel like there's that's a strong theme. There's pockets of War Machine players all over the world, that just kind of play with their immediate friends and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a group of guys I've grown up with. And,
it's kind of like your own.
We still get together and play D&D, but the
gaming, you did both. You did both War Machine and
I've known them since I was like 10. So we're still great friends, and I think they just got burned out on the wargaming. I know a few of them. They still ask me about it, and they keep up on like the CID forums and they read it, but they haven't been painting models or playing or anything. And we all used to go to Lock and Load as a big group and play, and I think I was just more into it than the rest of them. But we still play D&D every month and get together, and
I'm trying to get my RPG group to explore miniatures a little bit more. They're strictly RPGers.
It's hard to break out of that, I'll say the idea of going and playing a war game at a store regularly was odd to me. I had tried with 40K,
Yeah.
and I had honestly had a bad experience with that community and culture around that. And I'm not saying that's the entire game, but I was like, I don't really want to go play with people I don't really know that might have a different idea of what fun means, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
But the COG Collective community that's into War Machine here in the Portland area and even parts of Washington, California is fantastic.
Yeah.
The people are so nice. They're so welcoming. You know, if you're a hardcore tournament player or a hobbyist, or
There's space for both of those.
there's space for everything,
Yeah.
and there's just like it's diverse. There's people of different professional backgrounds and ages and everything, and I've become friends with many of these people in the last 2 years. So I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yeah. Hey, so Scott, how long have you been playing?
Oh my! Since Escalation dropped, which would be roughly 16 years, and I got into it because my kids and the woman I was dating started playing. And originally there were only 4 factions, so
You're like OG.
yeah, back in my day. But no, I started with Protectorate. Each of my sons picked up Crix or Kador, and
Nice.
the woman I was dating picked up Signar, so we could all play.
Yeah.
Although that was usually a bad idea because somebody's feelings would get hurt. But no, I first started playing, I didn't think I'd get into. It's like I'll build the models because that's enjoyable to me. I'll prime them at least,
Yeah.
but I didn't see myself painting them. And then
Oh, that's interesting.
probably 2 to 3 years into the game, gal I was dating was like, I'm going to sit here and paint. And it's like, hey, that's pretty cool. And we'd sit together and paint. And then we started painting at the game store in Boise because there was only one at the time. But yeah, we'd hang out and paint, and other people would come by and,
Yeah.
pull up a chair and talk and paint and pull ideas off each other.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting...
Kind of like what a normal Wednesday night at Ruiner Board looks
yeah.
like now, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, okay. So you've been playing. So Escalation, was that like the first expansion or something?
That was
or?
the first expansion past Prime. And
Okay,
it was,
okay.
I believe that's 16 years, if the math's right in my head.
Yeah, that's incredible. Do you ever go up to Lock and Load?
A couple times. Made it the last 5 years, I think.
Nice. Nice.
That's always enjoyable.
Nice.
Get to go out and hang out in the hobby lounge
Yeah.
and pick
Yeah.
up inspiration. And got to watch Matt DiPietro do the sketch style.
Oh, yeah.
And he talked about that, and he showed us how to do it. And I was so inspired. And I get home, and I tried it on one model, and it's like, it looks pretty good. And now I've forgotten everything that he taught. So,
Oh, if only that was recorded or something.
right? He's got websites, and there's enough information out there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'll get back to it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have just a fun conversation today. We're going to basically talk about the hobby side of things. You guys do a lot to contribute to the hobby community, and so I just want to pick your brain on that. And then we're going to talk about having an immersive playing experience. And so why don't we start on the hobby stuff? Why don't you guys talk about what the hobby does for you, kind of the space that you occupy, what you do for the hobby and for the community through hobbying, I suppose. It was how I probably should have worded that. But yeah, why don't I just turn over to you guys? Talk to me about what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I've been painting since I was probably about 8, right? So that would have been about 85 or so. And it's funny to see how it's all come along.
Is he saying the 85 years or since the
1985. Yeah. Journey on the radio in the background. Old, like, Rao Partha miniatures that were, like, not proportioned, made out of lead, and you didn't have your online resources. I didn't know what priming was. I bought some stuff at a store, and I got testers enamel paint, and none of it worked, and it looked awful. And I remember looking at a hobby, like a old White Dwarf magazine. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? And nothing clicked until I went to a gaming convention in the late '80s, and there was a guy there who was painting models, and he just like took. I must have been about 13, and he's like, you got to do this, this, and this. And they didn't sell like pre-painted washes and stuff. There were all these like little tricks that they didn't really you know pre-internet. How would you know, right?
Right.
And so he kind of walked through like all these stages and highlighting and color theory. And I had gotten really into art at that point, and so it all started clicking. And for me, ever since then, I try to paint pretty often, either miniatures for role-playing games or just wargaming. It's a meditative thing for me. I love doing it. It's a very good way to relieve stress, but you got to make it accessible, and that's one of the things I was hoping to talk about. Was a lot of people have like Scott has a dedicated hobby space in his apartment. I have a nice game hobby room in my house, but I have a toddler, and I'm kind of always like watching him, and it's hard to go sit in there and do that. So I kind of came up with this idea of like having a portable way to take your stuff out onto the kitchen table and put it away, but also to take it to the game store. And I started about 2 years ago painting at the game store, and there weren't a lot of other people that were doing that. And I would just kind of bring my stuff in and sit and do it. And it kind of started this thing where now every Wednesday at the back of Runin Board, there's like 6 people back there building models and painting things and talking and swapping ideas and giving each other critique. And it's like fantastic. It's this organic hobbyists kind of supporting and cheering each other on. And now even like Curtis, who you had on a couple episodes ago, he regularly comes out now from East Portland to hang out and paint with us. And, he does like high-end stuff, and it's great to bounce all that off. So I like having a portable hobby kit, and I like wrapping my head around the fact that, you can drop and paint on the fly wherever you need to do it at.
What does a portable hobby kit look like? Like
that's a good question.
I mean, this is an audio podcast, so do your best to describe. What do you include in there?
I think you gotta have like something to carry it in. And I thought a long time about this, and I ended up going to a sporting goods store. And if you go into the fishing section and you go to like fishing tackle bags, they're anywhere from $30 to $50, and they have all these pockets and things that are the right size to put your paints and your cups and your brushes in, and it's amazing. So I picked up one of those, and then you can get plastic containers at Michael's or Joann's Fabrics, and you can put paint in there. You can take your current palette of whatever you're painting and grab a few of your brushes and put them in a fabric brush holder and a bottle of water, and you're kind of ready to go. And it's kind of that simple, and you just get it all in there, and you get it organized, and then you can sit down at a table and pull out everything. And you can buy a portable light. And they sell nice portable lights now that you can plug in or have on a battery, and then you're out doing it. And there's so many benefits. I can't tell you how many times in the last 2 years at Runin Board people have come up and they just want to watch, and they're like, wow. It's intimidating. If someone has never painted, and you think about from their perspective, they're like, oh, I want to get into wargaming, and they go look at the wall, and there's these blister packs of bits of plastic, and they're like, okay, how do I assemble that?
Yep.
How do I paint it?
Exactly.
And how do I not have it fall apart? And then they look at a full army, which in War Machine is, we were talking on the drive over here, is about 130 points nowadays. When you
when you add all the extra,
that's like a lot of stuff.
Points.
And they're like
models. They're like, oh my gosh, that would take me years, and they're out, right? So even having that little step of just setting up and being accessible in the store, people will walk up. Well, how do you do that? Well, you just use super glue and you put them together, and then you can use primer, and then pick a couple to start with and just jump in, and then little tips like keep your color palette tight. You don't need 30 different bottles of paint for a warjack. You really don't. Maybe 4. Like a lot of people make that mistake if they do too many things, and then they don't they don't have a way of quickly.
Dude, my Greylord Ford Seer, there's so many colors on that thing.
Right. But would you want to do that again? Right? Could you knock that out again quickly if it was just 5 versus like 20?
I could do it quicker the next time. Yeah, I never got around to paying my second one because I ended up selling my Cato army. But
Right.
But I would have. I mean, it would have been a little easier to paint.
Yeah, that's some advice I always give people. Like a tight color palette when you're starting and when you're learning, and as you advance, you can expand it. But picking out 20 colors is just putting pressure on yourself. You don't need. Start with like 5 to 8 in a good solid range, and go for tabletop. I used to paint really high quality in the 90s, like for tournaments and stuff.
Wow.
And the thing is, you spend 40, 60, 80 hours on a big piece and you don't get anything else done. And so even though that's satisfying, my goals nowadays are to do high tabletop.
Yeah.
So like I like to play fully painted armies, and that's like my overriding goal. And so to get there, you need to do how do you paint? Like, say I painted I painted like 40 steelheads. How do you paint?
That's.
How do you paint 40 steelheads and make them look nice, but still get them done in a reasonable amount of time? And somewhere therein, you have to have a good pace, and you have to paint things in assembly line. You have to have a tight color palette, and you just have to have good fundamentals. And I did a lot of that at the store in front of people that were watching, and you just kind of have to say, like, okay, this is the step you're going to take, and you're going to paint it quick and clean, and kind of stick to your basic colors. And which is funny. I think a portable paint hobby desk like helps with that, because if you got a couple hours, you can get some in before bed or whatever, right? Or you can bring it to the store and paint at the store if you don't feel like playing. So portable hobby desk, love it.
My old portable hobby container was I think it was a 30-inch toolbox.
Mm-hmm. Metal?
From metal and plastic.
Yeah.
I think I bought it from Ace Hardware. And
about 90 pounds.
Yeah.
That's my problem with mine. I'm currently rocking a Craftsman. It's so heavy.
Yeah. Well, this one had the imitation diamond plate around it and plastic ends, and it itself was not that heavy. But when you load in the full set of P3 paints, I'm a big fan of Vallejo as well. GW had some paints that I really like to use, the Foundation series, which I wish they'd bring back sometimes.
Yeah, that's pretty nice things.
But, I'd load it up. I'd have my water jar, and at the time I was really anal about, my acrylics go in one, my metallics go in the other, and I have dedicated metallic brush and a dedicated acrylic brush, and, I really got super snobby about things. But packing that thing in and out of the store, because that was one trip. And then I'd go out to the car and get my army and bring it in. And just having, I kind of like having everything.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like, and we joke about having a home field advantage. For me, is a big thing because I've got everything I need there.
Dedicated space, yeah.
I've got a dedicated space.
And Curtis, who you mentioned earlier, does too. Yeah.
And, to build a mobile kit is like, okay, I need to make sure, I've got this project and here's my palette. But what if I want to work on, I'm pretty scattered, pretty easily distracted as far as, it's like, oh, these are the things I want to work on. But hey, there's this other model that just released.
I don't know anything about that, Scott.
Yeah, right.
How OCD am I?
Right. I've thankfully been getting,
ADD is what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
I'm probably on the other end. Like if I start painting something, I have to finish it.
Okay.
But I mean, like Perry,
I wish I had a little more dedication like you.
I like playing fully painted.
Yeah.
And last year, about this time, I joined the Brush Wielders Union.
Yes.
And that's a big motivator to do something hobby related. I mean, painting obviously, but
I'm in
just 30 minutes a day to. Last night I got the new Privateer releases, Legion of Lost Souls, and a couple of Thamorite Advocates, and some of the
Is the Terrorizer out now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Scythe, I think, is
Scythe and Dr. Stygius.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
But I got those, and I spent last night assembling them.
Nice.
And,
yeah, it's kind of good in that habit. Even if you're not in the mood of painting, just like assembling models,
Yeah.
That way you're doing something. It's good to build that habit. I'm in the Brush Builders Union too. It's great. There's a lot of like-minded people that are very encouraging, and you're encouraged to keep track of everything that you finish in a book, which is kind of nice because then you can look back
and you see it.
I do that. I was doing that normally, but it's nice to kind of formalize it a bit.
Yeah.
It kind of helps you look at your improvement over time and give you some targets. Like, what do I want to get done? What do I want to get done in a month? What do I get done in a week? And I always see people, I think units are the hardest thing for people to paint. People tend to, I even think a colossal or gargantuan is easier than units because it's just one thing with a lot of surface area, and you can sometimes, kind of quickly do it up. And I see a lot of people will get solos, warcasters done, and big, warjacks or war beasts, and then it's like the units though are kind of like the meat in your army, and you gotta get them done. So it's nice to kind of track and say, how many units did I get done, or can I maybe work on 3 or 4 guys out of the unit, and then get that done in 2 or 3 weeks, and then finish the rest, like do it piecemeal, so it's not so overwhelming.
Yeah, I think most units in War Machine are like 10 models.
Yeah, with
I
like
mean, 6 to 10 models.
Yeah.
It depends, but and then you throw in the officer and then any weapon attachments you have, and you can have a 15 model unit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of intimidating
big,
when you're when you're staring down the barrel. It's like, oh, I've got all this to do. I could just paint a warjack.
Yeah, that's totally what it is.
So I had an idea, and I don't think it's an original idea, but I don't know where I got the idea from. So let me throw this at you and see what you guys think. Considering units, usually in a 10-man unit, you have 3 different poses with 3 models each of those poses.
Yeah.
And then you have the 10th guy who has the unique pose, who's the leader of the unit.
Right.
And so outside of the pose, there's really no other way to tell that he's the leader. And so what I was thinking about the next unit that I paint, I was thinking of painting them all very simple and not very remarkable, but then doing a little extra work on the leader.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing to do?
No, it's good.
No,
I think units, people get way too sometimes into the details, which I think is better on a solo. You know what I'm talking about? It's like if you want to run 2 full units, that's like maybe 24 people.
Yeah.
It's like, back to that tight color palette, pick 5 to 8 colors, 6 to 8 colors.
Yeah.
Keep it kind of simple. It'll look great. You don't need to go into every little thing and do 5 glazed layers on chainmail or whatever. So, because they'll never get done.
I get the feeling that maybe you've done that before. Like, you might be speaking from experience.
And I've had a lot of people ask me about it. It's like intimidating. They're like, I want to run this list, but I don't want to paint 24 people.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you got to change your painting standard to what you want to get knocked out.
Yeah.
If you're spending 5 to 8 hours on a high quality solo, a lot of people don't realize that in their head that's like where they're at, and then they do the math and they look at 24 models and they're like, there's no way that's getting done. It's like you can't apply that same algorithm, right? You gotta like
200 hours to knock out a unit at an hour a night. It's going to take you
a long time.
You gotta shortcut it. You gotta have a simpler scheme. You gotta do assembly lines. So you mentioned like people are in similar poses. So when I paint, I have figure holders. I'll do, there's 3 people and 3 poses that are the same. I'll line them all up and I'll paint, leg, 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 everybody at once. It's crazy fast. And before you know it, you got them all base coated and it feels good. And you're like, okay, 10 people base coated. And then next night you do your wash and then you highlight. And you just kind of work through, but you do it differently. So building up that skill to do units, I think is important.
That rule of 3 is or not rule, but the suggestion of 3 is really good for those similar poses, because you could sit there and paint all 3 of them, do all your base coats. Oh, all the base coats are done. Okay, I'll do all my washes. I'll do my highlights. And then those 3 are done, you set them aside. The next 3, because invariably, I'll get to the second model and I'll be painting something. It's like, oh, I missed that on him. Okay, and I'll go back to the first one, and it's like, sure enough, missed it. Clean it up, make it.
Instant feedback.
Yeah,
yeah.
And so 3 at a time. And
so then
a lot of the times, though, I'll paint one model to be the test model for the scheme as well.
Yeah.
So that's like, this is, I'll paint it up, I'll have it all done, and I'll sit it there, and it's like, this is the standard I'm going for on this unit, and then try to match it with the rest of them.
So one of the things you mentioned earlier was do you use the model handle holder things?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Way less stress on your hand, and you can
manipulate.
You should be holding your paintbrush in one place, and I rotate the model around the paintbrush. Otherwise you're rotating around the model.
Yeah.
And then you're stressing yourself out, and you're not getting consistent lighting.
That's a different orientation. Like, that's a different way of thinking about it.
Don't think about that. Right. And it's
wow.
like, have your hand resting, lightly holding this thing, and
move the model.
Rotate it around, having consistent lighting, and it's faster.
Oh, that's incredible.
It's way less stressful.
Like, it's a mind-blown moment for me right now.
Yeah,
I never even thought of that.
People at the hobby table paint, and they're like wrapping themselves around this model.
You've seen, I'm like a contortionist sometimes trying to paint some of these models. My elbows are in or my elbows are out, and I'm upside down. Right. And I mean, I could be hanging from monkey bars and still be doing like, but this is like blowing my mind.
So it's simple too. One of the things that Dallas said when he was at Lock and Load was you want to get a triangle of support. So if you have, if you're right-handed, if you paint with your right hand, you hold the model in your left hand, and you brace your elbows or brace your forearms against your work surface.
Okay.
And then brace your hands against each other. You've created the support. And then with the hobby holders, any of them, the Citadels or the hobby holder.
Yeah.
There was a Kickstarter a while back. But you can spin the model around and you keep that consistent form, and you keep your elbows in. You don't exhaust yourself trying to contort.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. There's some ergonomics in there.
I've helped people out, like if you're painting a huge base model.
Yeah.
Here's my advice: go to Fred Meyer or Goodwill.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're getting the horns, man. That's such an awesome thing.
Yeah. Go to Fred Meyer or Goodwill and buy a candle holder. It's a little flat plinth thing.
Okay.
You stick candles on.
Yes.
They come in 5 inches. It's the same size as the base.
Oh yes, like a pedestal candle holder.
Yeah, and you can hold it with your hand, and they're lightweight.
Oh, and you like what? Like
you get the
like blue tack or something.
The heaviest mounting tape you can slap on there, like the 80-pound stuff, and you stick your huge base model on that, and now you've got a holder. And I turn mine upside down, and I'm like painting underneath.
That is brilliant.
People walk in a Runa board, and they're like, "Whoa, how are you painting that? Colossal?"
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, it's stuck to a candle holder, and you can get it $3 at Goodwill, and now you have a."
I'm in. I'm going to Fred Meyer later. No,
because it's you got a big thing, and it's kind of bulky, and you don't want to break off stuff, and it's got all these surface areas, and
you don't want to handle the model because invariably you're spinning the model around, and then your hand's covered in paint, and then you've got to go through and fix it.
So So you guys put the model on the base before you paint.
I stick mine on with heavy mounting tape.
That's what you do. Okay.
I like to do custom bases, or I'll buy resin bases.
Yeah.
And then I don't have to worry about, paint get on the base or whatever. So I usually take the base that it comes with, and I put the mounting tape on there.
Okay.
And stick the model on. And if you get the heavy stuff, it'll hold anything. It'll even hold like a full metal. I just did an extreme juggernaut, and it held that. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, you can get 80-pound mounting tape. It'll hold a miniature.
So, yeah. So on this,
I'd like to see the 80-pound miniature.
Yeah. Right. Oh, geez. On the subject of those model holders, I had ordered. Are you guys familiar with Death Ray Designs?
I know the name.
Yeah.
I'd probably cruise the website.
Yeah, they're just they do what I like them for is they do base inserts that fit PP and weird those lip bases that they have, and but then they also do bases for like 40K and Infinity and all the guys.
Oh yeah,
and they also have terrain, an incredible amount of terrain, and then they're starting to go into like markers and stuff. I found I stumbled upon them a few years ago, and I got this like Flagstaff base insert.
Oh yeah.
And when they ship it to you, it comes in a DVD case.
I
Yeah.
have gotten this actually.
Okay.
I got their cobblestones.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
are used on all of my mercenary bases. And
Okay.
they're made from hard
Yeah.
cardstock.
Yeah. So I recently picked up some acrylic ones because I wanted to use them for my Abyssinia army, and then they gave me a free item. And so the free item I chose was one of their model holders, but it comes in like MDF, and so I have to assemble it before I can use it.
More hobby to the hobby.
Exactly, more hobby to the hobby. But yeah, and so I'm interested in trying the whole hobby holder idea now.
Yeah, I think they're great. I used to have a couple different ones. I just kind of gave in and started using the Citadel ones because they're inexpensive and they hold pretty well, and they're actually really lightweight in your hand. And I just bought 5 of them, so when I'm doing like a unit, I can just get guys lined up and pick them up and not have to swap figures in and out. And it seems like overkill, but I think it's been worth it.
Okay.
They sell them at the store, and they're not that expensive.
No, they're not. They really aren't.
They're spring loaded, and they have a nice tight hold on the base.
I've held one.
Fall off yet.
But yeah, I've held one, so I know that I like them. So.
I have. If you would like to borrow one of mine, just let me know.
All right.
I'm happy if you want to try it on and see if it'll change.
Maybe this Wednesday.
Basically, one of my overarching things is like whatever helps you get into your hobby and paint easier, people should explore, right? So if that means a portable hobby kit or a paint holder or like ways to organize your things, because all of that other stuff is like a barrier or obstacle that prevents people from wanting to do it. So like, oh, I don't have a place to paint, or oh, I don't know how to prime, or I don't know how to glue, or I don't know how to hold this thing while I'm painting it, or I don't know how to mix my paints, right? There's all this like, I don't knows.
Right.
And so every little, tip adds up.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's no longer stressful, and it's this easy thing you can kind of roll out, and before you know it, you've got a great army, and then it feels great putting that on the table.
Honestly, it does. I was having this conversation with Chad and Dan a couple weeks ago, and I took all of my scorn and I sorted it between what is already painted and what is unpainted. And I took all my painted and I kind of looked at it, and I was like, okay, I can make this list.
Right.
And so I made a list, and then discovered that with the requisition points the way they are now, I have 2 models that need to be painted, right? Yeah. And so I've already started painting them.
That's a good way to set goals.
But that means that I have a 95% painted list. And I got to tell you, my last 2 Scorn games have been the best games I've ever played.
I saw you playing.
It just felt so good. Yeah.
There's something to be said for being able to field a fully painted army. When we talk about the immersion into the game, having a painted army on a custom table, like we get to play on at Ruin Board.
We're kind of spoiled right now.
Yeah. Thanks to Mr. Basor.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. But to be able to throw 2 fully painted armies on a themed custom table, there's something about that just makes it that much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
We're playing on the Infernals table because everybody plays on the Infernals table.
That is pretty popular.
It's a nice table. I've played on that table.
But, it's like, then you can create the narrative in your head.
Yeah.
And
it's a big part of the hobby. It always kind of rankles me a little bit when I hear people say that they don't know the lore, or they make fun of the lore, or they call it fluff instead of lore. It's like somewhat dismissive, or it seems like a popular thing to do, to be like, well, I don't really know the background of that. It's like, man, for me, that's like one of the pillars. Like, I want to know who these steelhead mercenaries are.
Yeah, where they come from.
And they're all dirty, and they're out for money, and they're morally ambiguous, and they're going to work for... to me, that's like exciting. Like, that goes back to why I got into gaming, is these great stories. And the Iron Kingdoms has got some awesome narrative stuff in it, and it always just sort of rubs me the wrong way a little bit when people are dismissive about that. I'm like, man, this stuff is really fantastic. You guys are spoiled nowadays.
Yeah.
The fluff or the lore is what really drew me into the game initially. I mean, to go back and read Prime, the original Prime now, is a little painful. because they used a lot of accents. So everybody in Signar had a really thick Cockney accent, very thick Russian accent for Kador.
I
Lots
will
of
crush
V's
you.
Yeah, some late 90s, early 2000s
Yeah.
gamer cringe in there.
Yeah,
like,
they're
play like
yeah,
you got
huge.
a pair, kind of
Right.
extreme.
But
gaming.
it was that fluff that got me immersed in the game. It's
Yeah.
like, one of the first Warcasters I ran was High Reclaimer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you like about High Reclaimer's story? Like, what connection did you make?
Actually, the big connection was that he was 52 points, which was the cheapest Warcaster you could run in Mark 1. But his whole thing that he could bring models back, and he worked off of souls.
Okay.
So the more souls he got, that turned into focus, the more
cool
things
mechanic.
you could do. And it's a really cool mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the very first War Machine model I ever saw was a Gun Mage.
Okay.
And it blew my mind because I was like, okay, I've played a lot of D&D throughout my life. What is this? This is a guy that looks like a Revolutionary War patriot, and he's got a gun, but he's casting a spell through the gun.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm on board. What is this? This is
Yeah.
cool.
How do you feel about those gun mages these days?
Yeah, they're awful. Kill all my They kill all my army. So I was sucked in. I wanted to know what and then all of the nations have such interesting flavor. No one's really good, right? Everyone's either.
Except for Trollbloods, apparently.
Well, they all have their dark side, right? And I think it makes it interesting. And the Warcasters and Warlocks in each of them have.
Yeah.
There's personalities in there that are interesting.
The backgrounds are pretty well fleshed out for each of the factions.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting down, like Perry said, with the seal heads, you're sitting down to play a game, and it's like, well, these guys are, being paid a lot of money to go and fight their opponent. Next week, the ones that live through this battle might end up working for that opponent.
I mean, you never know, right?
For the opposing army, that's kind of the fun.
They paid me more.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like Alexia raising someone's dead friend in the middle of the battle next to them, and they're like, Frank,
they're staring at each other. Like, yeah.
There's definitely there's some amusing angles in the lore of the Iron Kingdoms that's pretty compelling to me.
When I first got started, I bought two things. I bought the Kador Battle Box, and I bought the Flashpoint novel. And then I promptly went on vacation, and I read that novel, and completely while I was on vacation, and I came back, and all I wanted to do was build and play and play.
Yeah, it drags you in.
Yeah, so I want to read more. I'd like to read more. Ozzy and I, we spent a lot of time on War Machine University. And
it's a good site now. It's really well maintained by the site crew, and I'm certainly appreciative. I'm on there all the time reading about what the heck is my opponent fielding against me, and how does this work, right?
Same. Honestly, I feel like I have a better handle on the game because it's like, people used to say, download the app and just read cards. Well, great, I'd read cards, but then
there's no context.
There's no context.
Yeah.
It's like those it's like those language learner apps where you learn vocab, but you don't know how to make a sentence.
Yeah.
That's really what I mean. I can read a card, but what do I do with it? And
what's the context?
Exactly. So War Machine University, you scroll down and it starts fleshing it out. Here are some good ideas for your battle group, and then here's some, and you don't have to follow that advice, but it's there to help you think.
Yeah, it's a good thought exercise, and what pairs together.
Yeah.
And really, we as gamers, we like to consume. If it's not podcasts or online reading or PDFs or whatever, we want content. And like I said earlier, when I was a kid, you didn't have anything. You got Dragon magazine every other month or something, or White Dwarf, and you hoped that there was something in there that was interesting for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays it's like, I can pull
embarrassment
up on YouTube.
Of riches.
It is crazy. How do I paint green emerald gems? And within seconds on YouTube, there's
18 million videos.
And they're all super high quality, and it's crazy, right? So it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, why don't we keep tapping into that real quick? You said you had a few things you wanted to share about that immersive experience.
Yeah.
And so why don't you?
So we got Scott and I got the idea last summer. I think we're pretty spoiled. Rune and Board is a great local store. It's big. It has a whole. One of the sides of the store has a dedicated game and table space.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that that's kind of rare. When I was younger and I traveled all over the world when I was in the military, I saw a lot of game stores through the ages, and I even worked at one for a couple years. Finding a place where you can go and play that is clean and accepting of all, all
everyone,
persuasions of everyone.
Yeah.
You could have kids in there. You could have whoever want to come in and play and not feel like they shouldn't be in there. And they don't charge for table space. And it's awesome. And then we are, every Wednesday night there's regularly 20 or more people in there, and maybe not everyone's playing. Maybe people are hobbying, but oftentimes there's people. 4 to 6, 7, 8 games. A couple times we ran out of table space. So we started talking because normally, we have the mouse pad terrain that you see everywhere.
Right.
And the great debate over whether that's better than 3D terrain. And I'm like, why does it have to be a debate?
Either
why
or.
Can't you have both?
Both and. That's right.
And we said, we have all these people that come here. Why don't we? There's no reason why we can't make this the best ever.
Yeah.
And the other thing, everyone would always walk in and be like, could someone set up a table for us, right?
Yeah.
And then you wait 30, 40 minutes because someone has to, and you want someone to set up the table a certain way, and everyone's kind of waiting. So I'm like, what if everyone just kind of came in and everything was set up and it was amazing, and then people would get in more games, and maybe if the tables were immersive, people would also want to hobby and paint more, and it would be good for the store. So Scott and I talked this through, and Muson Minis, the Muson store, have officially licensed War Machine zones for Steamroller. So our thought was, well, why don't we go through each faction and come up with a thematic table? Like, what would a Signar table look like? Like, we'll get a village.
Scorched Earth.
Yeah, we'll get a Scorched Earth.
Crying
policy.
babies.
Yes, yeah. Refugees. No, but we were like, well, let's do like a town. Let's do a cobblestone town, and let's have terrain specific to what that would look like, and then we were like, well, what would a Trollblood table? Well, it'll be maybe in the snowy tundra, and we'll have huts, and we'll get Trollblood zones, and then
I know a great place to get huts.
Yeah, well, so
Battlefield in the Box.
Yes,
that's true. So when we started mapping these out, we made like a list, right? A shopping list, and we started hitting Etsy. Highly recommend Etsy to any hobbyist.
Love Etsy.
It is dangerous.
That's an expensive hobby
It
right
is
there.
an expensive hobby because
just clicking on the site is expensive.
Your checking account has been deducted $100 for logging in. No, but there's people all over the world now with really good 3D printers in their garage or whatever, and they're making terrain, and the stuff you see in there is amazing. So we built shopping lists for all these thematic zones, and got them ordered.
Wow.
And I spent, with Scott's help, 2-3 months painting terrain. I stopped painting all our miniatures, and we just painted terrain. We painted, mossy ruins and trees for the Circle Ouroboros table. The Infernals table, I got like a sacrificial altar, burned trees and houses. And so each of these, we have 7 now, and we're going to do 2 more. I'm going to do Kador and Convergence table.
Ooh.
So that we can swap.
I'm getting into Convergence now.
Oh, I know.
I'm going to play on that table all the time.
We're still kind of debating what we want to do, but we were thinking that we put it in a swamp, because one of the stories, there was like a hidden temple in the swamp, and then we get some machinery that looks kind of steampunky that would... People would be worshiping it. And the Kador one, I'm going to do a snowy, like abandoned train yard, I think would be pretty cool.
Very cool.
So, So Wednesdays, I get off work early and come in at 3, and we just get these set up.
Nice.
And people roll in, and they're like, wow, these are all ready to go.
It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and they get I've seen people get 2 or more games in a night now because everything is ready, and
Yeah.
it's like it's selfless. It's fine. I love doing it, and now other people are doing it. It's become contagious. So like the other night, you set up everything.
Actually, it was Curtis that started.
Curtis came out early and set up everything.
Yeah.
Nice.
The feedback
Nathan
has been
and I
amazing.
helped, but
Yeah.
And it really wasn't that expensive to do all this. You can get a pack of trees on Etsy for
God, it was like $20 or
20
something like that.
bucks, and just put them on your mousepad terrain. Everyone,
Yeah.
no one has said I don't like playing with 3D terrain. Everyone loves the 3D terrain.
Yeah. Because you can, if you need to, you can just pull them off real quick, and the 2D is underneath it, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And also, I see the debate all the time, like on Facebook and stuff. It's like an obstruction is a major terrain piece in the rules for blocking line of sight.
Right.
And that can just be any object. So why not get something cool like a temple ruins or whatever, and have that be on the table so that it's representing something. It takes the game to the next level. And I lament the passing of the press gang. And Scott, you can talk to that. He was a press ganger.
Yeah.
And I really wish they had a way to bring that back, because you had a community leader. So, without a local press gang, people just kind of need to step up. And so for us, it was like, let's take this store that lets us play here, and they give everyone discounts on Wednesdays that buys product.
That's right.
Let's
support your local stores.
Yeah.
Let's support the store. Let's put a kick-ass terrain and tables together, and they're all stored in these tubs, and they're easy to put out, and they're thematic, and literally everyone has enjoyed playing on those. That's in our COG community.
I love how you guys have sort of taken the lead on that. It really, it's a good example and model for other communities and game stores around the world. We have a lot of listeners who, in Europe and in Australia and stuff, who listen to this podcast, and and the fact that the players who play at Rune and Board support Rune and Board, and then the Rune and Board supports the players playing at Rune and Board. Like there's just like this,
it's mutually beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, it's great.
And part of it is supporting the store. That was kind of a tangent, but that allows us to have this space to play.
Yeah.
And to make it more immersive, make it more fun for everybody. It's fine to step up.
Yeah. When Oz and I started playing at Rune and Board more regularly, I stopped buying things online and just only go through Rune and Board. So
same here. I pre-order everything. I feel like you can get it a little bit cheaper online, but you got a place where you can play with your friends and build a community, right? And it's an ecosystem,
right?
As that sounds.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, you don't have anywhere to go. It's sort of the game, that's not good for the overall part of the game.
Yeah.
So I love going down there. Every Wednesday I look forward to going in there and seeing those tables. And if I'm either playing a league game or I'm hobbying, it's a great time. And all of those people have become really great friends.
Honestly, yeah.
And the bonus with having 6 tables is there's in the Steamroller packet there's 6 scenarios, so each table is set up for
nice.
And since we've got the Masters League going on, sometimes they have to adjustments are made, but for scenario, but people still playing on the
that's good to know.
5D terrain or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it looks great though.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's like you don't have any rule line of sight issues because of the templates, but it makes the table pop, and I think that's all that's all you need. It's just so I would challenge any listener, go look online and think of ways to get some terrain to put on your table and paint it, and you don't even need to paint it with really expensive paints. You can just use cheap craft paints and then seal it with a sealer. I did that for all the terrain in there.
Yeah,
it's just painted with.
But boy, it looks so good though.
Looks
so
paints.
good. Yeah.
I've done all mine in contrast because I wanted to see how the paint worked.
Yeah, Scott did a fantastic Grimkin themed table. Have you seen it? It's like the abandoned farmstead.
Yes, we were looking at it last time I was there.
With a little pigsty and haystacks and everything. Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, I got to get the chicken coop done now.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm hoping that everyone on the listening end gets encouraged and inspired, to do more, to get into the hobby and whatnot. Do you guys have anything else you want to add? You want to any closing thoughts? I'm going to quote you in a second, but do you have any closing thoughts or anything you want to add to wrap up?
I would just say, everyone can think of a way you can selflessly add something to the community, whether or not that's assembling your models at the store where other people can ask you questions, or helping set up or helping put things away. Every little thing kind of helps, and then people, it'll grow that social circle, and people like that. They'll want to play that game. And then so many times in the last 2 years, people walking into that store and they see us building and painting, and then in the last 3 months they see these full color tables.
Yeah.
They get interested, and that's how you keep it alive.
Yeah.
That's how you get people looking at it, and they say, wow, those people are having a really good time. They're all friends. They're playing this fantastic looking game, and that's what you want to project out there, right? So
and be welcoming to people.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
When we're sitting there doing our hobby thing, we'll get passersby that come up and it's like, oh, that's, what are you working on, or what's this, what game is this for, what's, and answer the questions to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've been pulled out from the table to hey, I've got this paint scheme, what paints do I need?
Hey, that was
colors?
me.
That was you. But you're not the only one.
You helped me big time.
You're not the only one, because it's being willing to, even to a complete stranger, it's like, oh, you're painting this. What colors are you looking at using?
Yeah.
And then there's a little color theory in there, but just, what glue do you use?
Yeah.
Yeah. Simple as that, because we've got new people that have tried putting their stuff together with not the right glue.
It doesn't work, and it doesn't work. I had a gentleman come in, and he bought a starter battle box War Machine. And
nice.
This is last September. I've seen him a few times since then, and he's like, how do I put all this together? And they don't really tell you, right?
No, they don't.
There's no instructions in there.
Yeah.
Like, well, you're going to need to trim off the flash and score it. And then he was like, okay, I'll go buy this tester's glue. I'm like, no, don't use that. So, there's a lot of that stuff that's just knowledge that's not accessible to new people. So you got to do what you can to make it accessible.
Yeah, back to the barriers of entry.
Get rid of those barriers.
Yeah. That's what you said.
Make it as simple as possible.
So whatever helps you get into the hobby, explore that. That's what you said.
Portable hobby kit.
I love that.
Community.
Yeah.
Good tables to play on. All of that is the stuff that leads up to having a really good time with your friends.
That's right. Hey, I want to end on that. That's real positive. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thank you for sharing what you guys have, your experience with our listeners. I just want to ask you, if you're, if you listen to our podcast and you like these kinds of conversations, we'd love for you to give us good feedback. Let us know how we're doing. You can email us at spellstormminiatures@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can join our painting group. You can also even get on board. We have a Discord server that's been running for a couple years now, and we have a lot of different hobby talk going on there too. But that's about it, I guess. So thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on.